there was a time, ideas don't float with tags. Muslims don't know how to float ideas without the tag. You know, when all of you in school are reading about whether it's constitutional stuff or Habermas or whatever, you don't hear the religious tag under it. Right. Muslims start off with Islam says. You've shut everybody down. Right. So what becomes important is that Islam says, not what is being said. And that may make a difference in the conveyance of ideas. An idea that is good, a value that is sound and true, outweighs the tag. Right. You know, and I think that is, Ben Carson, by the way, is perfectly capable of reading. He's an idiot. That's just personal. But I understand, I do agree that some of the things that he says are right, and our self-presentation is seriously faulty. Seriously faulty. Because you guys will be the ones that probably save it. It won't be my generation, because we're totally crazy. But it's the tag, and how do you get around the tag? How do you become that person who's cool? You know, one of the two examples sitting here were Faraz and Trent. Two very different people in some ways, but much the same in others. Both religiously grounded. I can watch them being challenged in what that religious grounding is, but everybody can talk to either one of them. And some way or the other, they haven't articulated it. They've found a way to keep their religious grounding and enter in conversations with people of all sitting faiths, same with the women here, which is what makes this a unique gathering.
Let's talk about one other thing while Cross pulls it up, is that I think the antithesis, the counterpoint to Ben Carson is someone like Reza Aslan.
Oh, I don't need any problem.
Right? Because Reza Aslan says stuff like, well, Islam is just a set of symbols and ideas that I happen to like, so I call myself a Muslim, but it's no more true than anybody else's stuff. Because we're speaking about something that can't be spoken about. Right. But then why would you hold your position? You know. So he's doing this weird thing where he's defending Muslims' quote-unquote right to say X, to exist in X space, but then he's like, but what we believe is not really anything. You know? So it's kind of this weird thing. Or like even watching Ben Carson, and we saw who was he? He was interviewing with CNN guy, some CNN dude, right? And the CNN dude is sitting there, and probably if you were to pick apart his brain, he would probably be like, yeah, I know a lot of Muslims that are kind of crazy, because he's trying to put out the liberal progressive position. Right. And I know that he knows there are a lot of Muslims who he would not want to be in the same room.
But I think that's where the question is then, has secularism, or what we define as secularism today, has it become triumphant over those who are claiming to practice a certain faith belief or a certain religion? Mm-hmm. And then at that point, has secularism forced us, the people who, us as in people who have been practicing or are practicing a certain faith belief or religion, into a certain box? Yeah.
Another way of I think the problem then, so if you read the opinion that the court wrote, it's not as if that's like a bastion of rational thought that you can really like engage with objectively, right? So I think that's where these guys come in, these recent critics of secularism. They say that, you know, all this thought comes from somewhere. It has a history, often has a religious history. The idea of individual rights, the idea of like a sphere of private life that's separate from the state. And these aren't things that are necessarily like objectively knowable, objectively true either. So what I'm trying to say is that I guess the religious perspective gets a bad rap for being like non-negotiable, but at the same time I think this alternative view is also kind of non-negotiable. Like what does it mean for something to be a fundamental right? Where is Anthony Kennedy getting this from? He's the guy who wrote the opinion. And I think when you start asking those kind of questions, where are you getting this from? Then they run into the same problems that we might run into as religious people.
I mean, basically, you're asking what is rationality? What do we define as something that we can rationally engage with?
I mean, it's
like, why is religion?
It's a kind of belief system itself, right? So it has certain assumptions about like how rights operate, how rights work, and.
But also, you need to, in that statement, distinguish between a right and a privilege. Mm-hmm. Because that's a conversation that's been lost. Everything is not a right.
Sorry, can you say that again?
You have to distinguish between a right and a privilege.
Yeah.
And the Constitution does that. But in our conversations about it, we miss it. And that distinction is often lost. And so people get to claim as rights things that have never been rights. They've always been a privilege here and there.